Companies have just stopped hiring junior developers. This is happening right now. In big tech companies, junior developer hiring has dropped by 25% in the last 1 year. New grads account for about 7% of the total hires. Of every 100 people hired, freshers are just 7. It's AI, right? With AI doing all the grunt work, we just need senior developers to point and tell the AI what to do. Yeah? Well, this strategy is very wrong for many obvious reasons. One obvious reason is, well, if we stop hiring junior developers, we are soon going to run out of senior developers. They're going to retire, and who's going to take their place? But that is, say, 10 years from now. It's a future problem. Forget that. There are 4 immediate problems that are breaking right now that no one's talking about. And this is stuff that's going to show up in this quarter, coming up soon, not a problem that we need to tackle a decade from now. I'll tell you what those problems are. Here's this InfoWorld article where the author describes what he calls an unusual movement to eliminate the junior developer role. I'm going to link this in the description. So companies are explicitly saying AI can handle the grunt work that juniors used to do. So we don't need juniors anymore. And the numbers do back it up. Like I said, 7% of hires in big tech are juniors, down 25% from last year. With startups, it's even lower. It's around 6%, under 6%. And this is a problem. It's happening right now across the industry. Now, again, like I said, the obvious problem is succession planning. Without juniors, you will have no seniors in 10 years. Yeah, that's true. Eventually, seniors retire and now you have no one to replace them. But here's the thing. Companies don't care about 10 years from now. That's 2035's problem. The CFO who's making this decision right now will get a bonus this year and they'll probably be at a different company in 5 years. They don't care. And honestly, for something like a startup, startups usually have like a 12-month runway. And this isn't even an irrational decision to make. You won't exist in 10 years if you don't ship and if you are not cost effective in the next 6 months. So why would they optimize for a decade away? So succession planning, the succession pipeline is a real problem, but it's a future problem. Companies know about it, but they've decided that the trade-off is worth it. So that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm not talking about a 10-year problem. I'm here to talk about a current problem that's happening when you stop hiring junior developers. Here's what companies see when they get a junior developer. A junior developer needs about 6 months to become productive. There is a ramp up period where they're not shipping features. They're kind of learning the code base. They're asking questions. They're making mistakes that a senior developer needs to catch in code reviews. And usually what they say is they consume about 20% of a senior developer's time. They're asking questions, mentoring. There is code review of PRs that a senior developer needs to do, explaining stuff. So this is a cost. And now if we bring AI into the picture, say GitHub Copilot or Claude Code or Cursor or whatever, that's a negligible cost. Now suddenly you have seniors that are 30% more productive. Like I'm looking at it from the company's lens. I'm going to talk about the junior developer's lens in a little bit. So from the company's point of view, a senior developer is being more effective. They're producing boilerplate code faster. They're generating test files. They're writing a lot of code. So all this stuff is supposed to be a junior developer's role, boilerplate or, writing tests and all that stuff. Now a senior developer is doing. And so there is this immediate ROI that the AI plus seniors math gives you. So the near-term math, it makes sense. If you are a CEO or a CFO, maybe this is what you would do. I don't know. So this is the reason why, especially when you have startups with a shorter time horizon, a 12 to 18 month horizon, they need to ship now. So this calculation makes sense. But there is a problem. When you remove junior developers or when you decrease the count of junior developers, you're not just removing the future seniors and saving money. You're actually removing 4 other critical functions. These are functions that break immediately, not in 10 years. These are in weeks or months, a year at most. You will see the impact of this way. And companies aren't measuring this because a lot of this isn't measurable. they are going to break in important ways and you can't measure it. So let me show you the hidden problems that break immediately when you stop hiring junior developers and you have a team full of senior developers. So picture this. First problem, imagine a team of senior developers. Every single person has 8 to 10 years of experience. They're all very smart, opinionated, accomplished. Here's what happens. Everyone there wants to lead. Everyone there wants to architect. Every technical decision ends up becoming a debate. Trust me, I've been in meetings like this where everyone is a senior. So there's a lot of thought that goes into everything. Every code review ends up being this philosophical discussion about the right way. Every meeting gets into, okay, here is my opinion, here is this opinion, there's this bike shedding that happens. And the actual work kind of takes the back seat. Everyone feels qualified to have an opinion on everything. So everyone has an opinion on everything. Here is this quote from InfoWorld, which says, "It's a fleet full of admirals, but no sailors." That's exactly what an all seniors team looks like. You get plenty of strategy, plenty of direction, and the ships are not moving anywhere. There is this concept called the architectural astronaut syndrome. You folks heard of this? This is where every senior feels the need to demonstrate their expertise by solving problems that maybe doesn't even exist yet, because senior developers are optimized. Their brain is optimized for thinking about architecture, strategy, complex problem solving, which is great. This is necessary, but the team also needs people who are just okay with implementing once a decision is done. People who stop and ask, what should I do next? Instead of thinking, how do we re-architect this? With all seniors, you get too many chiefs, too many cooks, over-architected systems, under-delivered features, and ego clashes. Junior developers provide this natural role differentiator. They're okay being implementers. They're okay with just taking something and then doing it. They're okay following decisions. And it is not demeaning. I'm not saying that they cannot do it. I'm sure a lot of junior developers have great architectural ideas as well, but they're more comfortable in that role. So it's not about skill. It's about willingness to execute on someone else's vision without feeling compelled to put your own architectural stamp on it. I think junior developers do a great job of that. And if you stop hiring juniors, if you think you can staff a team full of seniors with AI, this is something that breaks immediately. Meetings take longer, PRs take longer, everything takes longer. Problem number one. Let's talk about problem number two. This is something that I've noticed. It's very subtle, but I've noticed it. When you have a team full of seniors, there is less bias towards action. I'm not saying seniors can't code. I'm sure a lot of seniors can code. But left to their own devices, seniors will prioritize the strategic over the tactical. But when you have junior developers, not only are they more comfortable in taking on these tasks, they also need tasks. They tell you, hey, I don't have anything to do. What should I pick up? That creates a forcing function. Someone needs work. Now you're compelled to actually break down that epic into implementable tasks, to prioritize bug fixes, to assign documentation changes, to create that executable work. I've seen so much stuff that actually gets done for the sole reason that we had junior developers who needed something to do. Not because senior developers couldn't do it. It's just that junior developers create that organizational pressure to prioritize execution alongside architecture. Without junior developers, there's no one asking for tasks. This is a small shift from what I talked about previously. It's not that they're comfortable doing it, not just that. It's also that you're compelled to execute because you have junior developers. Without that, team is just staying in architectural mode. We have small bugs that persist, not because no one can fix it, because the team is more biased towards design and nobody's forcing execution to happen. So in that case, junior developers act like a counterbalance. Their presence kind of shifts the team's energy rather, to, let's build this. Let's try something. Let's build something. They keep the team honest. So that's the second problem. Now, the third thing, there is another dimension that's even more important. Junior developers challenge senior developers. Again, you might say, no, not all junior developers challenge. Some junior developers are just order takers. They just don't want to confront. They just want to do the job. Fine. I'm not talking about confrontation. Junior developers challenge senior developers, not confrontationally, but through genuine confusion. There's a lot of instances where junior developers come to a senior and say, why are we doing this? I don't understand the benefit here. This seems really complex. These questions are very, very valuable because they force the senior developer to articulate their thinking. Sometimes you realize that you can't articulate it well because you haven't actually thought it through. The design has a gap, the architecture is overcomplicated. In that case, you're building something because you are comfortable with, but it's actually not ideal. Or you're building something because it's interesting and it doesn't solve the actual problem. There is this concept in psychology called the curse of knowledge. Once you're an expert, you literally cannot remember what it was like not knowing something. You take shortcuts in your thinking. You skip certain steps because you have that context. You assume that context. And this is a problem that I have with teaching as well. When I know something very well, I have that curse of knowledge, and it's harder for me to teach someone who is completely new. Whereas if I'm learning something, as I learn, I feel like I'm usually better at teaching because I am kind of going through that path myself. So when you have a team full of senior developers, these questions are not asked. And that's missing. Junior developers kind of expose this. They expose, again, not through expertise, not through, okay, I want to challenge the senior developer, but they expose it because they lack the context. They don't have these accumulated assumptions. So they question these things that senior developers take for granted. This is the value of naive questions. It kind of forces you to think from first principles. And guess what? AI doesn't do this. AI is the most agreeable colleague that you've ever had. If your senior developer asks AI to say, go implement something, AI says, great idea, here is the code. If you ask AI to architect something, it's not going to say, well, this is too complicated, let's do it this way. It never forces you to justify whether you're building the right thing. You can ask. Sometimes it pushes back, but even when you're asked and you're challenged between two things, it just goes with whatever you say. Because AI is trained on existing code patterns. It'll happily build you an over-engineered mess if that's what you're asking. It's not going to push you back. And here's another thing. AI feeds egos. It validates whatever direction it's going. And guess what senior developers have a lot of? So you see the problem? AI is an order taker and assumes what you're doing. When a senior developer is left to their own devices with AI, it forms this ego-boosting feedback loop. I'm not saying that all senior developers are like that. I'm not like that, of course, but some maybe are like that. Anyway, my point is junior developers provide that form of accountability that AI simply cannot do. They make you explain yourself, and in explaining, you discover the gaps in your own thinking. That's uncomfortable, but it is valuable. You miss that when you don't hire junior developers. All right. Now on to the fourth dimension. This is also subtle, but it's critical. When senior developers work with AI, they build their silos deeper, right? They're asking AI questions, they're getting answers, they're building features, all in their own domain. All knowledge stays inside their head. So what do we have? We have silos. But when a senior developer works with a junior, the junior usually rotates. They work with multiple seniors. They ask one person about the backend. They ask person two about the front end. They ask person three about the infrastructure. Junior developers are often this connective tissue between multiple seniors, multiple teams. They're the ones who see across domains because they're learning across domains. So they break silos out of necessity. They don't know enough to just stay in one silo. Right? There's this thing called the bus factory. Folks have heard about this, right? It's how many people in a team could get hit by a bus before your project is in serious trouble. When you have all seniors working with AI, each person working on their own domain with AI, the bus factor goes to one person per system component, right? And I'm not talking hypothetically, right? This does happen. A senior backend developer leaves, no one else knows how to build a particular system. They have to reverse engineer it from the code. But usually when there are junior developers, there are actually multiple people who know, because guess what? They're constantly asking, how does that thing work? They force documentation as well, right? They force explanation. They force knowledge to exist in more than one head. There's this concept called the T-shaped developer expertise in a team. Okay, so when you have a team, there is this broad knowledge, just like a T, right? There's this broad knowledge across domains, which is the horizontal bar. And then there is this vertical knowledge, which is expertise in one particular domain, right? In a team typical composition, juniors are naturally building that horizontal bar because they kind of rotate through different areas while learning. But when you have seniors working with AI, they become this I-shaped, deeper and deeper into one narrow area, which is great for that specific domain, but it is very, very bad for system resilience, for team resilience. If you remove developers, you get that. The bus factor goes bad. The problem is nobody notices this stuff until it is too late. When a senior developer leaves and you're trying to hire a replacement, that's when you realize the problem is. And now you have a problem of onboarding a senior developer as well. It breaks within months, and I'm not talking about 10 years down the line. So here's my opinion on this. I get what companies are doing. They're trying to cut down on hiring juniors because it seems like AI is doing what a junior should do, right? If you talk to a CFO or someone who's managing costs, AI costs next to nothing. Juniors cost a lot of salary and mentoring time, but seniors plus AI can deliver 10x more. The math is there, but here are all these factors that spreadsheets don't capture. How many hours you waste in architectural debates? Like, how do you measure that? It's really hard. How do you measure what is the diversity of the team in terms of thought, in terms of expertise? How many silos do you have? You can't really capture that. So companies are making a bet. They're betting on the immediate economic gains, but they're ignoring the immediate costs as well, which you cannot measure. Maybe if you're a startup, it's fine. They don't care so much because for them, it's like ship or die, right? I get that part. But for everything else, yeah, there's some short term financial optimization, but you won't know that you've made the wrong trade until it's too late to fix. So I think companies that have longer time horizon should not go with primarily seniors. Dropping off hiring freshers is a big mistake. And if you're a junior developer and you're watching these jobs disappear, your value proposition has just changed. You're not competing anymore on, well, I can write code fast. These are your new value props now. Okay. You are competing on, can I question assumptions? Can I force execution? Can I break these silos? Can I challenge senior developers in ways that AI never will? So lean into that in your interviews, at your work. Kind of position yourself as that person, which makes you uniquely human. Be that connective tissue. So this is what I think. I think this is a trend, and I'm hoping companies realize this soon, and it is going to improve for junior developers. I don't know what's going to happen. This is an experiment that's running right now. I guess we'll see the results in about 1 or 2 years.